Today we're going to learn how to convert fractions and decimals and percent. First, let's look at fractions to decimals. Some fractions are really simple because you already know. For example, 1/4, you already know, is a quarter of a dollar or 25 cents. So you can just write it like you normally would money. Other fractions are pretty easy because they convert easily into a decimal, such as 3/10, you should already know is written 0.3 because you know how to write tenths and hundredths. Other fractions are a little more challenging because they don't convert as easily. Take the fraction 3/5. Well, there's no fifths for decimals, and it doesn't equal something you might have memorized. So how would we change it? Well, there's two ways. This one is fairly easy because we can make an equivalent fraction with 100 or 10 as our denominator by doubling top and bottom, and we can get 6/10, which then we would write as 0.6. The hardest type are those that don't make equivalent fractions with a 10 or 100 as a denominator, such as 1/8. There's nothing that we can do to make an equivalent fraction to change this to tenths or hundredths. So the only method we have is to take the numerator and divide it by the denominator. Well, 8 doesn't go into 1 evenly, so we're going to add a decimal and 2 zeros and divide to get our decimal. So 8 into 1 doesn't go. 8 into 10 is 1. Try to get 2, bring down our 0. 8 into 20 goes 2. And I see that there's 4 left over. And I'm going to add one more 0 because if I bring that down, 8 goes into 40 5 times. So 1/8 is equal to 125,000, or 0.125. Now, to go from fraction to percent, you have to actually go through a decimal, just like we learned on this side. You cannot go directly from a fraction to a percent. So if you have the fraction 3/4, you're going to turn that into 0.75 and then convert that into a percent. How do we go from decimal to percent? We simply multiply it by 100 and then count over. So 0.75 or 75 equals 75%. And I know that this is true because percent always means out of 100. So if I have 75 hundredths, I have 75 out of 100, which is 75%. Let's do a couple more examples. Let's try 9/10. Well, that would be written 0.9. I'll multiply that by 100 because there's 100%. So you get 900 and count over 1. And 9/10 would equal 90%. Let's try one that doesn't change so easily, like, I don't know, 3/7. So we would have to turn that into a division problem. 7 into 3 is 0. 7 into 30 is 4. 7 into 20 is 2. And even if I bring down another 0, it's not going to work out evenly, because that would be 8. And I could keep going for a long time here, but I'm going to stop after I've gone 3 places. So this would be 42.8%. And you might ask yourself, how did I get that without multiplying by 100? I know that when I multiply a number by 100, it moves the decimal two places. So I know that I can go from here to here when changing from decimal to percent. Let's try decimal to fraction. Again, some of these are easier than others. If I have 5/10, I would simply write it the way that I say it, 5/10. And then I would simplify to 1/2. Or if I have 0.27, that's 27 hundredths. So I write it exactly the way that I say it, 27 hundredths. And that one will not reduce. What if I have something like 2.41? Well, I know that I have a whole number, so 2 and 41 hundredths. I would write the decimal part as a fraction and simplify if I could. So decimal to fraction is not too complicated. But we've already looked at decimal to percent when we looked at fraction to percent. So all we do is we take our decimal, 0.98, and we multiply that by 100, and count over 1, 2, so 1, 2, so that would equal 98%. If I had something that was greater than 1, such as 1.67, I would still just multiply by 100. And I hope you notice that when you multiply 100, it's the number that you started with 2 additional zeros. And then you count back, 1, 2. So that would be 167%. And yes, you can have numbers that are over 100%, at least in business, maybe not in effort. What if you have a really small decimal, such as 0.002? When I multiply that times 100, count over 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I actually get 0.2%, which is less than 1%, and you are allowed to have decimals in your percent answer. Finally, percent to decimal. Well, that's just going in reverse of what we just did. So let's take a percent. 60%. This time we're going to divide by 100. And when we divide by 100, basically that means we're moving our decimal 2 places to the left. And let me just show you why that is true. If I have 60 divided by 100, it won't go. I'm going to add a decimal and 2 zeros. That's 0, 0, 6. So that would equal 0.60. So we can see the decimal was here. We were allowed to move it 2 places to the left because we divided by 100. Let's try another one. If we divide by 100, that means we're going to have the same number, but we're going to move our decimal 2 places to the right, or left. So that would be 0.385. And finally, let's try 0.5%. If we divide by 100, we can move our decimal 2 places to the left. We would have 5, 1, 2, so 0.005. And our last one is to change from a percent to a fraction. Just like fraction to percent had to go through decimal, percent to fractions must go through decimal. So if you have a percent, you have to change it to a decimal first, and then change it to a fraction. And simplify. So that would be 9. You could also see that 45% we said was out of 100. So 45% would be 45 over 100. And there would be So if we had 22%, we know that means 22 out of 100, which equals 11/50ths. Or if you have you won't have a decimal in the percent, you won't go there. So 15% is 15 out of 100, which reduces to 3/20. And that's how you convert.